The first thing the aliens noticed about the human prisoner was that he kept asking about the children. Not his own children. Not his family. Not even the other humans taken during the occupation. Children. Every 11 minutes, without fail, he asked the same question. Are the children safe? The guards stopped answering him after the 4th time. By the 9th time, they started laughing. By the 15th, they became afraid of him. It began on the morning the Kruan Empire landed on Earth. The invasion was supposed to last 6 hours. That was what the Kruan High Command predicted. 6 hours to seize the major cities. 14 hours to dismantle Earth's military communications. 3 days to establish planetary control. The humans had no interstellar fleet. No shield network. No ancient alien technology. No weapon capable of challenging a civilization that had crossed 400 star systems. The Kruan had conquered species far more advanced than humanity. They had defeated the Velari, whose ships could travel through folded space. They had broken the Kessin worlds, whose soldiers were genetically engineered for war. They had forced the massive Thresian Confederacy to surrender after a 19-day campaign. Earth was supposed to be easy. The first mistake was assuming humanity's military was the most dangerous thing on the planet. It wasn't. The Kruan discovered that 8 hours into the invasion, their soldiers had taken the city of Chicago. They had secured the airports. They had destroyed several military installations. They had captured thousands of humans. Then their orbital scanners detected something strange. A massive concentration of human vehicles was moving toward the city. Thousands of them. Military intelligence immediately assumed a counterattack. The Kruan deployed gunships. The vehicles kept coming. The ships descended. The first wave of vehicles stopped at the edge of the occupied zone. Then humans stepped out. They weren't soldiers. They wore orange jackets. Some carried medical equipment. Some carried food. Others carried strange metal containers. A Kruan commander watched from a hovering gunship. What are they doing? His tactical officer checked the identification data. Emergency personnel. Military. No. Then why are they here? The officer hesitated. They're requesting permission to enter. The commander laughed. Permission? He opened a communication channel. Human vehicles. You are entering an occupied military zone. Turn around immediately. A human voice answered. We can't do that. Explain. There are people trapped inside. Your government surrendered. We know. Your military has been defeated. We know. You are now under Kruan authority. There was a pause. Then the human answered. That's not relevant. The commander stared at the console. Not relevant. We have patients inside. The commander almost laughed again. Human, your planet has been conquered. Another pause. Then the voice answered. People still get hurt when that happens. The transmission ended. The Kruan commander ordered them to leave. They didn't. He ordered his gunships to fire warning shots. The human vehicles remained where they were. Then something even stranger happened. The humans began walking into the occupied city. Unarmed. Medical bags over their shoulders. The Kruan soldiers raised their weapons. The humans kept walking. One soldier shouted. Stop. The humans stopped. A woman in an orange jacket stepped forward. She looked directly at the alien soldier. There's a school 3 blocks from here. The soldier said nothing. There are children inside. That is no longer your concern. The woman's face hardened. It is if they're dying. The soldier raised his weapon. The woman didn't move. Then a Kruan officer arrived. He looked at her. Then at the medical equipment. Then at the damaged buildings behind her. How many? The woman answered immediately. 43 children. 6 teachers. 2 injured civilians trapped in the basement. The officer stared. How do you know? Because we have people inside. You have people inside our occupied zone. Yes. How? She looked at him as though the answer was obvious. We're firefighters. The officer didn't understand. He had studied humanity for years. He knew their military, their economy, their weapons, their political systems. But he had never understood firefighters. Why would you enter a battlefield without weapons? The woman looked toward the damaged school. Because somebody has to get them out. The Kuruan officer stared at her. Then he moved aside. 5 minutes. The woman nodded. Thank you. She turned toward the building. The officer watched her disappear inside. 5 minutes became 10. 10 became 20. Then the building began collapsing. The Kuruan soldiers prepared to withdraw. Then the woman came out. She was carrying a child. Another firefighter followed. Then another. Then another. 43 children emerged from the ruins. Every single one alive. The Kuruan soldiers stood in silence. One of them whispered. They're insane. The officer didn't answer. He was beginning to think something else. Maybe humans were simply different. That was the second mistake. 3 days later, the Kuruan had established occupation zones across most of Earth's major population centers. Human governments had surrendered. Human armies had stopped fighting. There were no organized rebellions. No guerrilla attacks. No sabotage. No mass uprisings. The Kuruan considered this proof that the occupation was working. Then their supplies began disappearing. Not weapons. Not ammunition. Food. Medicine. Fuel. Water purification equipment. The Kuruan thought humans were stealing it. They weren't. Humans were redistributing it. Everywhere the Kuruan occupied, strange human networks appeared. Doctors treating patients, engineers repairing power stations. Farmers moving food. Truck drivers delivering supplies. Teachers organizing children. Firefighters searching damaged buildings. Volunteers carrying elderly people out of collapsed apartments. The Kuruan tried to stop them. The humans politely explained that people still needed to eat. The Kuruan confiscated warehouses. The humans built temporary kitchens. The Kuruan shut down communication towers. The humans used radios. The Kuruan confiscated the radios. The humans started using bicycles. The Kuruan blocked roads. The humans walked. The occupation commander eventually sent a message to the human government. Control your population. The answer came from a tired human official. We're trying. Your people are interfering with our administration. How? They keep repairing things. The human official paused. Would you prefer we didn't? Yes. That's unfortunate. The communication ended. The Kuruan commander was furious. But the strange thing was, the humans weren't attacking them. They were helping each other. The Kuruan couldn't understand it. Their civilization had been built around hierarchy. The strong commanded. The weak obeyed. During war, civilian activity stopped. Food distribution was controlled by the military. Medical resources were reserved for soldiers. Infrastructure was repaired after victory. Humans did things differently. They repaired things during the war. They fed strangers. They treated enemy soldiers. They pulled wounded aliens from wreckage. They even repaired Kuruan vehicles. That was how Commander Derek first encountered the human prisoner. His name was Daniel Mercer. He was found inside an abandoned Kuruan transport station. He had been working on a damaged power system. When Derek entered, Daniel immediately raised both hands. I'm not armed. Derek pointed his weapon at him. Identify yourself. Daniel Mercer. Military. No. Engineer. Daniel hesitated. Sort of. What does that mean? I fix things. Derek stared at him. That is not an occupation. Daniel looked around the station. Apparently it is today. Derek arrested him. He was taken to an interrogation facility. The Kuruan expected resistance. Daniel gave them his name. His age. His occupation. His city. Then he asked one question. Are the children safe? The interrogator stared at him. What children? At the temporary shelter near the Eastern Transit Station. Why do you care? Because I was responsible for them. You are a prisoner. I know. You have no authority. I know. Then why are you asking? Daniel looked at him. Because I want to know. The interrogator ended the session. 11 minutes later, Daniel asked again. Are the children safe? That was when the Kuruan started laughing. They thought he was weak. They thought he was broken. They thought his concern for strangers was some primitive human emotional weakness. They didn't realize Daniel was counting. He had asked the question every 11 minutes because every 11 minutes, someone should have been checking the shelter's emergency beacon. When the guard stopped answering, Daniel knew something was wrong. The children weren't in danger because of the Kruun. They were in danger because the shelter's power system had failed. And Daniel knew exactly how long the emergency batteries would last. 37 minutes. He had been imprisoned for 34. Daniel stopped asking. The guards noticed. The interrogation room became quiet. Then Daniel smiled. The interrogator frowned. What? Daniel looked at the wall clock. 3 minutes. Until what? Daniel stood. The guard immediately raised his weapon. Daniel didn't care. He looked directly at the interrogator. Until the lights go out. The interrogator stared at him. Then the lights went out. The room became completely dark. Emergency lighting activated. Red. The interrogator turned toward the door. What happened? Daniel smiled again. That's not the problem. What is? Daniel stepped closer. The shelter. The Kruun officer activated his communicator. No response. He tried again. Nothing. Daniel whispered. They're already moving. The interrogator looked at him. Who? Daniel didn't answer. Because outside, something had begun. Across Earth, thousands of human emergency systems activated simultaneously. Fire stations. Hospitals. Power stations. Water treatment plants. Transport centers. Emergency shelters. Every civilian disaster response network on the planet woke up. Not because humans had launched a rebellion. Because humans had lost power. And when humans lost power, they had procedures. Daniel looked at the Kruun officer. You should probably call your commander. The officer did. The commander answered immediately. What happened? Planetary infrastructure failure. Sabotage. We don't know. Find out. The officer hesitated. Then Daniel spoke. Tell him it's not sabotage. The commander heard him. Who is that? Daniel Mercer. The commander went silent. Why are you in my station? Long story. The commander ordered the officer to disconnect the transmission. Daniel continued. You're going to want to listen. The commander laughed. You are a prisoner. Yes. You have no authority. Correct. Then why would I listen? Daniel looked toward the ceiling. Because your ships are about to start falling. Silence. The commander checked his tactical display. Orbital vessels were reporting power fluctuations. One ship lost propulsion. Then another. Then another. The Kruun had assumed Earth's infrastructure was primitive. That was another mistake. Humanity had spent centuries connecting everything. Power grids. Communication networks. Navigation systems. Weather satellites. Emergency systems. Transport systems. Medical databases. Food distribution. Civilian aircraft, everything depended on everything else. The Kruun had attacked the military systems. They had ignored the civilian ones. Humans had noticed. And now the humans were using their own infrastructure to control the planet beneath the occupation fleet. Not to destroy it. To isolate it. Power stations shut down in carefully controlled sequences. Not randomly. Hospitals stayed online. Emergency shelters stayed online. Water systems stayed online. Military facilities lost power. Kruun bases lost communications. Their landing zones went dark. Their ships couldn't refuel. Their automated supply systems stopped receiving authorization. The Kruun had conquered Earth. But they had never actually learned how Earth worked. Daniel watched the commander realize it. You did this. Daniel shook his head. No. Then who? Daniel smiled. Everyone. The commander looked confused. Daniel continued. That's the part you don't understand. He stepped toward the communication console. You keep looking for the person in charge. The commander stared at him. Where is your president? Doesn't matter. Your military commander. Doesn't matter. Your government. Doesn't matter. Then who authorized this? Daniel looked directly into the camera. The people who needed it done. The commander went pale. Because there was no single human command center. No headquarters to destroy. No general to capture. No central system to shut down. Humanity had built something far more difficult to defeat. A civilization that could continue functioning after its leaders disappeared. The Kuruan tried to regain control. They sent troops to power stations. The power stations were empty. They seized hospitals. The doctors kept working. They confiscated food. The farmers stopped delivering to Kuruan bases. They shut down human communication. The humans switched frequencies. They arrested engineers. More engineers appeared. They arrested truck drivers. More trucks arrived. They shut down schools. Teachers started teaching in shelters. They threatened civilians. The civilians stopped being afraid. Not because humans were fearless. Because they had discovered something important. The Kuruan couldn't possibly arrest everyone. There were too many humans. Too many doctors. Too many mechanics. Too many pilots. Too many farmers. Too many electricians. Too many ordinary people who knew how to keep the world running. The Kuruan could defeat an army. They couldn't defeat a civilization. Then came the message. It wasn't from Earth's government. It wasn't from the military. It wasn't even from Daniel. It came from thousands of human emergency channels simultaneously. The same message. One sentence. We are still here. The Kuruan commander stared at it. Then another sentence appeared. You can leave. Then another. We will help you. The commander couldn't understand. Help us. Daniel was standing beside him. Yes. You want us to leave after what we've done? Daniel looked at him. Yes. Why? Daniel thought for a moment. Then he answered. Because if we become what you are, then you already won. The commander said nothing. Outside, Kuruan soldiers were beginning to lower their weapons. Not because they had been defeated in battle. Because they had started seeing things. A human doctor treating a wounded Kuruan soldier. A human firefighter pulling an alien child from a burning building. A human engineer repairing a Kuruan transport. A human farmer giving food to an enemy patrol. The Kuruan had expected hatred. Instead, they found something much more dangerous. Humans who refused to let hatred decide what they became. 3 days later, the Kuruan began withdrawing. The war lasted 11 days. The invasion ended without a final battle. No giant explosion. No glorious human fleet. No alien emperor executed on live television. Just millions of humans standing in damaged streets as Kuruan ships lifted away. Daniel stood outside the same emergency shelter where the children had been waiting. The little girl who had been asleep when the power failed ran toward him. Mr. Mercer. Daniel caught her. She wrapped both arms around him. Are they gone? Daniel looked at the sky. One final Kuruan ship was leaving Earth's atmosphere. For now. Are they coming back? Daniel looked down at her. I don't know. The girl thought about that. Then she asked. If they do, will you protect us? Daniel smiled. Me. She nodded. You. Daniel looked around. At the firefighters. The nurses. The engineers. The teachers. The exhausted volunteers. The people rebuilding houses. The people cleaning streets. The people carrying food into shelters. He looked back at the child. I won't be the only one. The girl smiled. Then she ran back toward the others. Daniel watched her disappear. And that should have been the end. Except the Kuruan commander had not forgotten him. 2 months later, a message arrived from deep space. It was encrypted. Daniel was the first human to decode it. The message contained only one sentence. We misunderstood your species. Daniel stared at the screen. Then another line appeared. We thought your strength was your ability to destroy us. Daniel leaned back. The next sentence appeared. We were wrong. Daniel read the final line. Your strength is that you can rebuild after we do. He stared at the message for several seconds. Then he typed a reply. Yes. He stopped. Deleted it. Typed again. No. He stopped again. Finally, Daniel sent the answer he believed was correct. You still don't understand. The response came immediately. What don't we understand? Daniel looked out the window. Across the city, humans were rebuilding. Not perfectly. Not quickly. But together. He typed. You attacked our soldiers. Send. You attacked our governments. Send. You attacked our infrastructure. Send. You attacked our cities. Send. But you never understood what any of those things were. Daniel paused. Then he wrote one final sentence. They were never humanity. He sent it. The Kruun didn't reply. For a long time, nothing happened. Then a new message arrived. Not from the Kruun. From somewhere else. A civilization Daniel had never heard of. Then another. And another. Then hundreds. They were asking questions. How did humans survive the invasion? How did human governments function after surrender? How did their civilians organize? How did their medical networks remain operational? How did they rebuild so quickly? And eventually, one question appeared again and again. How strong are humans? Daniel looked at the messages. He could have told them about Earth's weapons. He could have told them about nuclear arsenals. He could have told them about military technology. He could have told them how many soldiers humanity could mobilize. But none of those answers felt right anymore. So he sent a different answer. We don't know. The galaxy waited. Daniel continued. We've never had to find out. That message spread farther than anyone expected. It crossed the Kruun Empire. It reached worlds humanity had never heard of. And eventually, it reached the Galactic Council. The Council summoned Earth. Humanity sent Daniel. He arrived in a chamber filled with hundreds of alien species. Some looked like insects. Some looked like machines. Some looked almost human. All of them had one question. What are humans capable of? Daniel stood before them. He looked tired. He had slept 4 hours the night before. He hadn't prepared a speech. The council's eldest representative leaned forward. Human Daniel Mercer. Daniel nodded. We have reviewed your species' military history. Daniel said nothing. You have developed nuclear weapons. Yes. Biological weapons. Yes. Orbital weapons. Yes. Autonomous weapons. Yes. The alien paused. And yet you did not use them against the Kruun. Daniel shook his head. Not most of them. A murmur spread through the chamber. The representative leaned closer. Why? Daniel looked around the room. Because we wanted them to leave. Your species could have destroyed them. Probably. Then why didn't you? Daniel thought about it. Because the answer was the simplest thing in the world. Because winning isn't always about destroying the person who attacked you. The chamber became silent. Daniel continued. Sometimes winning means making sure they don't have a reason to attack you again. The representative looked at him. And if they return? Daniel glanced toward the massive windows overlooking the galaxy. Then we'll deal with that. The representative's expression hardened. You sound confident. Daniel smiled slightly. No. He looked back at the alien. We're just very good at dealing with problems. A few aliens laughed. Daniel didn't. Then something changed. Every display in the council chamber suddenly activated. A warning appeared. Unknown vessels entering council space. The room erupted. Alien officers shouted. Security forces moved. Daniel looked at the display. Thousands of ships were appearing. The council representative turned toward him. Human. Daniel stared at the incoming fleet. What? Are those yours? Daniel looked at the ships. He had never seen them before. No. The alien's voice trembled. Then what are they? Daniel watched as the unknown fleet spread across the stars. Then he noticed something. The ships weren't attacking. They were forming a defensive perimeter around the council. Protecting it. Daniel's eyes narrowed. A message appeared. Not from the aliens. Not from humanity. From the Kruun. We have received reports that an unknown civilization is approaching the council. Another message appeared. We have decided to help. Daniel stared. The council representative looked at him. You know what this means. Daniel nodded. The alien waited. Daniel finally smiled. It means they learned. Learned what? Daniel looked toward the stars. That sometimes the species you were supposed to conquer. He watched the Kuruan ships join the defense. Is the species you should probably stand beside. The unknown fleet stopped. The galaxy held its breath. Then the alien transmission arrived. We request diplomatic contact with Earth. Daniel stared at the message. The council representative whispered. What should we tell them? Daniel thought about the children. The firefighters. The doctors. The engineers. The people who had kept working while an empire tried to convince them they had already lost. Then he answered. Tell them we're listening. The alien looked surprised. That's all. Daniel smiled. For now. He turned toward the windows. Beyond them was a galaxy that had spent centuries believing power belonged to whoever could destroy the most. Humanity had learned something different. Power wasn't just the ability to fight. It was the ability to rebuild. To protect strangers. To keep moving when everything had been taken away. To refuse to become cruel simply because someone else had been cruel first. And perhaps most importantly, to make sure that when the next enemy arrived, there were people standing beside you who remembered what you had done when you had nothing. That was what the Kuruan had finally discovered. They hadn't lost Earth because humanity had stronger weapons. They had lost because they had mistaken surrender for weakness. They had mistaken civilians for helplessness. They had mistaken kindness for fear. And they had made the oldest mistake of all. They thought humanity's strength belonged to its strongest people. It didn't. It belonged to everyone. And that was why the next time the galaxy heard the words, humans are coming, nobody laughed. They checked their weapons. They checked their borders. They checked their communications. And then, they checked whether humanity needed help. Because after Earth, the galaxy had finally learned one very simple rule. Never judge a species by how hard it can fight. Watch how quickly it stands back up. And watch who stands beside it when it does.